engineer and chairman of the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission, PAEC, from 1972 to 1991, and A.Q. Khan, a metallurgical engineer and director of KRL from 1976 to 2001. Munir A. Khan and A.Q. Khan, the third and second heads of their respective organizations, were outsiders to the nuclear program and were appointed on contract. Their terms in office marked the most decisive and eventful period in Pakistan's nuclear history, with enduring legacies for the country and the world. The PAEC has been the official organization responsible for developing and managing the overall nuclear program and operations in the country since 1956. Entrusted to build a nuclear deterrent capability in 1972, this organization handled several projects and laboratories that were tasked with developing the nuclear weapons design, manufacturing, and testing infrastructure, as well as the nuclear fuel cycle, including uranium exploration, processing, conversion, and fuel fabrication, the building of power, research, and military reactors, and fuel reprocessing. The PAEC was also responsible for developing civilian applications in agriculture, medicine, industry, research, and human resource development. KRL, originally founded in February 1975 as the Directorate of Industrial Liaison, one of several fuel cycle projects under the PAEC, became autonomous in 1976 and was renamed the Engineering Research Laboratories in July 1976 and eventually KRL in May 1981. Its mandate was to develop a uranium enrichment capability using gas centrifuge technology. Since the decision to launch a nuclear weapons program in 1972, by virtue of the scope of its responsibilities, the chairman of the PAEC has had the most significant impact on the development of the overall nuclear program, closely followed by the project director of KRL. Because the nuclear program was geared toward developing nuclear weapons, the heads of the PAEC and KRL directly reported to the country's president, prime minister, and over the years they increasingly began to equate the survival of the country with the acquisition of nuclear weapons through the two organizations' preferred paths for producing fissile material and delivery systems. They were also locked in an intense and enduring competition for resources and actively lobbied for expansion in each share of the nuclear pie by undermining the other's position among the country's civil-military elite. However, what makes Pakistan's story unique is that it was able to build the atomic bomb despite a deeply polarized and personalized nuclear decision-making process. No other country's nuclear weapons odyssey of two competing organizations was similarly shaped by the carefully crafted personality cult of a media-savvy head of one organization, while the other, responsible for a much bigger piece of the nuclear cake, deliberately refrained from projecting his organization's accomplishments and remained shrouded under a cloak of secrecy. I also aim to cast new light on how bureaucratic politics and myth-making have determined the evolution of Pakistan's nuclear program and enabled the rise of an illicit proliferation network involving A.Q. Khan. I do not review the activities of this network, which have already been discussed at length in several accounts. Nevertheless, the full story of Pakistan's nuclear development, the ideas that animated and constrained its efforts, and the domestic and personal political tussles that affected its key choices, has remained untold. Pakistan's nuclear story also needs to be revisited from the competing and complementary vantage points of the leaders of the overall nuclear program through the critical years of development of nuclear capability, 1972 to 1998. In addition to Munir Khan, this includes key project directors such as Ishfaq Ahmad, A.Q. Khan, S.B. Mahmood, Riazuddin, and Samar Mubarakmand. Therefore, my key motivation in pursuing this project has been to address several myths and conventional wisdoms that dominate the scholarly, journalistic, and popular discourses on Pakistan's nuclear program. Conventional Wisdom 1. Security drivers primarily explain Pakistan's nuclear decisions. The realist paradigm and the threat